Welcome to episode number 10 of Beyond Medicine Natural Health Empowerment. I'm your host, Bruce Britton, along with Dr. Lane Sebring on the front porch of the Sebring Clinic. On this beautiful day in the Texas Hill Country, we look into cancer, its causes, and its cures, traditional approaches versus alternative natural health approaches. All that today on Beyond Medicine Natural Health Empowerment. Let's join the conversation. Well, back on the porch again for Beyond Medicine Natural Health Empowerment. A rather warm day here in the Hill Country. And we even have the cicadas buzzing off in the background. No, that isn't a Czechoslovakian folk band. A cicada is an insect, if you're not from Texas. But they're making some noise in the background. We're having fun with the conversation here about tools to empower you to a natural health, to optimum health in your life. We're talking about a big subject today in this episode of Beyond Medicine, and that is the subject of cancer. Both of how we can deal with that and prevention, and how you can take charge of that problem yourself. Dr. Sebring, when an oncologist says that they can treat cancer, what do they mean when they say treat?
Well, that is the number one question, actually, that I think a patient needs to ask their oncologist. Please, doctor, define treat. And tell me what the deal is here, because they may define treat. They may be defining that they can decrease the recurrence of this cancer. In other words, extend it out a few months, a year or so, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, but not get rid of it. And that is a very different meaning to the word treat. If they say, you know, we've got a 90% chance of eradicating this cancer completely so that it's gone, that sounds like 90% treat. That's pretty good. But I think patients really need to know that, because they can be led down a pathway so they get another treatment and another treatment. And pretty soon the body's ability to withstand that treatment and to fight that cancer is gone.
Just by not understanding what treatment means.
That's right. And I think what needs to be understood here, so that why this is so important, is the body is the best treater there is. You and I are making cancer cells right now, about 100 per second has been estimated.
Wow.
But the body finds them and kills them. The immune system does that. It has to, those cells betray themselves as cancerous to the immune system. And so there's things you can do to help them betray that, so the body does recognize it. And there's reasons that cancer is so prevalent now. It's the number one cause of death. 50 years ago, it wasn't even in the top 10.
Wow.
Hunter-gatherer women have less than 1/100th the amount of breast cancer compared to modern American women.
Well, that's impressive.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's things we're doing, and that body finds those cancer cells and kills them. The other aspect is cancer cells are supposed to self-destruct. There's a mechanism that's written into our DNA that when a cell becomes cancerous, it's supposed to self-destruct. There's a funny word that we use to describe that called apoptosis, A-P-O-P-T-O-S-I-S. And you can look that up, and you can help induce apoptosis in cancer cells. And these are things the body can do. Just because it got behind on this particular cell and didn't recognize it in time and it started to grow doesn't mean you can't empower the body to go kill it. And frankly, I think that's the most powerful therapy we've got, especially under those conditions when modern medicine doesn't have a good answer.
You know, apoptosis sounds like a condition you'd have from listening to too much AM radio or something, or too much pop music, but far more important than that.
It's incredibly important, and it's something that modern medicine pays little or no attention to. I've seen a few areas of research where they're trying to kind of look at inducing apoptosis into a cell. So there's a tremendous number of things you can do. I have a friend who we could make many episodes out of, who was diagnosed with a prostate cancer. That 99.5% of people who get this particular types of prostate cancer, is very rare. 1 out of 500 prostate cancers are of this type. But 0.5% of the people who are diagnosed with it are alive in 3 months. 99.5% of people die within 3 months. No one has ever lived past 9 months except for him. He lived 5 years. Wow. And he did that because he took over 60 tablets a day of different nutritional supplements. He took over control of his care. He was telling his oncologist what the next step should be, and he could certify that in the literature. And they didn't know what to do. Obviously, modern medicine had no good tools for this, and so he was able to direct his own care with great success. And he armed himself to do that because he studied. You can get on Medline or PubMed or a lot of these different medical search engines that look at the research that's out there And
There
you
is a
begin
lot
to-
of information on the net, isn't there?
Huge amounts. Of course, the modern medicine tends to sort of poo-poo that, and there's some crazy people out there. Obviously, it's free for enterprise,
Yeah.
and so everybody's available to get on there. But there's a wonderful amount of information that really empowers people, and there's huge amounts of research that show that the nutritional approach to this, again, getting the immune system working and the body's ability to fight cancer, and simply containing that cancer. One of the things that modern medicine has finally started doing is if this particular cancer, like breast cancer, tends to go to bone, then and invade the bone, so you have bony metastases, we call that. If you give the bones what it needs to stay strong, then the cancer can't invade it. Okay, so that's sort of an alternative medicine approach that's actually being incorporated now in modern medicine, and of course they do it with a drug rather than nutrition or vitamins or whatever.
So it's kind of preventative in a way because it's keeping it from spreading
is.
further.
Right, and it's a total different strategy rather than you have this cancer, therefore you get this chemo that kills it or not. And that's where you need to find out what your statistics are. And if your oncologist is uncomfortable telling you that your chances aren't very good, you need to get on the internet and find it yourself, because you, at that point, are empowered with you can empower yourself with what to do about it.
Maybe some of our viewers might be in the same position I am, and I actually have heard this before, that your body is producing cancer cells all the time. And I guess you just connected the way to handle that, or the body is actually equipped to handle that.
Absolutely.
By the immune system being strong. And I know we said that fairly clearly, but I wanted to bring it back up again in case our viewers had never heard that before.
Yeah, it's really important that our body is making cancer cells, they develop, and we find them and kill them. It's just doing the maintenance. And that's the system that has not gone away. It's still doing it all over the body, even when a person develops a big cancer. They're still stamping out all those other cancer cells that it does recognize and that do self-destruct.
So you might have said this, but then our immune system failing, basically, or not doing its job is what basically causes cancer to start to invade the body. Is that true, or am I simplifying that too much?
Well, sometimes our immune system is a bit handicapped by what we eat and what we don't eat, and so it doesn't have the tools it needs. And so some of these cancer cells, in a sense, are a little tricky at hiding. And because it's happening so often, once in a while, one of them gets by the system. It doesn't mean that system then is not capable of still handling it. You just need to boost it up again. And there's things you can do to cause that cancer cell to betray itself as cancerous. And good nutrition. Ironically, that apoptosis we were talking about, nutrition, is how a cell has to be healthy enough to recognize it's cancerous. I know that sounds like a contradiction, but if it is, it'll self-destruct. And that's where you go to induce apoptosis with good nutrition again.
Well, you mentioned something that all of us are familiar with, the term chemotherapy. And I've heard that oncologists lots of times will suggest that you drop all nutritional supplements in that.
Yeah, perfect. I'm really glad you brought that up. Virtually every study that's been done shows that the nutritional approach actually improves the outcome in percentages with the chemotherapy and, in fact, radiation. Those cells, if you give those cancer cells nutrition, then they actually grow faster. Now that sounds like you don't want that to happen, but what it does do is it takes up the chemo that much faster. And that's what we count on is cancer cells taking up that chemo faster, because they're growing and multiplying, very rapid metabolism. So they differentially take up this cancer killing substance or cell killing substance at a faster rate than the other cells. So we try to balance giving you enough chemo that kills all your cells so we die from it versus just those that is enough to kill the cancer cells, because they take up more of that poison.
I see. And so why does an oncologist suggest that you do that? They're just not aware of what
They're not aware of it. It's not in the big medical literature.
Well, we're going to continue this conversation maybe for a couple of more episodes. Conversation about cancer, its prevention, its possible cure. And we'll continue that on the next episode of Beyond Medicine. You've been watching Beyond Medicine, Natural Health Empowerment. If you would like more information, contact the Sebring Clinic at 512-847-5618 or visit us on the web at sebringclinic.com.